Hello, and welcome to the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast. This is John Goodwin, your host. This podcast is dedicated to the aspiring writer and artist and will provide inspiration and tips from top professionals in the field. If you've been listening to this podcast or are new to it, I thank you very much. I would also appreciate if you took a moment to follow it on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts. You can listen to this podcast or any podcast episode at writersofthefuture.com or on uprnradio.com. Writers of the Future is one of the longest running writing competitions in the world, now celebrating 4 decades of providing a helping hand as initially conceived by L. Ron Hubbard. I also want to let you know that the Writers of the Future volumes are available in bookstores throughout the U.S., Canada, the UK, South Africa, and Australia, as well as through all major online retailers. And if you're a bookseller that's listening to this, you can also get your Writers of the Future books at Ingram, which we'll be discussing momentarily. Today's guest is a consumer marketing services manager for Ingram Content Group, Davina Powell. She's a creative sales and marketing expert who is known for connecting publishers to key audiences. She has spent more than 10 years in the digital marketing space, developing new resources that ensure publishers and booksellers' marketing budgets are used in a productive way. And we're also going to be talking about a new service, a new feature that Ingram provides to the bookseller. So for those of you who don't know, Ingram is the largest book distributor in the world. And if you have any intention to write and sell a book, this podcast interview is for you. Welcome, Davina.
Hello, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So I guess to set the stage on this thing here, and I've used this stat multiple times in other interviews and press releases and articles, but I'm still in awe about it. There were upwards of 4 million books published in 2022, 75% being self-published. The average self-published author makes $1,000 annually, selling only 250 copies. This stat is from Self-Published Books and Author Sales Statistics by Nicholas Rizzola. So again, anybody who wants to self-publish or is interested as a distributor or as a bookseller, you need to listen, pay attention to what we're going to be talking about now. So first of all, I give you a little bit from your bio, but tell me a little bit more about yourself.
I am from Wisconsin originally. I live in Nashville, Tennessee now. I actually started my young career off in newspaper print. I am what they call an early adapter. So I learn new things quickly. I'm intrigued by new things. That led me into the digital space and being able to understand and articulate with retailers and businesses what they needed to do to take their business online and be successful in the e-commerce space. And I did that for years for a major newspaper digital company. I then became part of a team that went around the country and talked to businesses and other newspapers about digital marketing and what it was going to be like in the future. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard for people to understand what that looked like because they were so used to what the world was like in that time. And so we're in that space now where it's kind of like the future, right? So things are moving and they're moving really fast. And so it's important. My career has taken me from there out of the newspaper realm, but I still am in the digital realm and have been for a long time now. And being able to curate audiences is really what I've been good at, and being able to articulate for businesses and for consumers where you need to be to talk to your audiences. And that really, I ended up at Ingram in the marketing department talking business to business. So booksellers to publishers and publishers to booksellers. Mm-hmm. And I did that at Ingram for years. And over the time, there were times where I would have conversations and realize that those publishers are talking to consumers, but they're using big dollars to talk to audiences to do broad strokes. And we realized that there should have been some more niche conversations, because if you are trying to, if people say, well, I'm trying to reach everyone. When you're trying to write a book and you say, this book is good for everyone, that's great. But then in order to reach everyone, that means you've got some Super Bowl money. Yeah. That means you should be putting that out on the Super Bowl. But the reality is most of us don't have an infinite amount of money to reach our audience.
Most of us.
I mean, some of us have a lot of money. There are people in the world with a lot of money.
Yes.
So if you've got a budget, and that budget, you've got a book and you've told a story, it's a beautiful time in the world, because you can write your own book. You don't need someone to tell you whether your story is valued or important. You know your story is important. You wrote it as paper, and you want to share it. Now, the key is figuring out who wants also to hear your story.
Mm-hmm.
There are varied ways to reach that. So over time, that's how my career has evolved. I enjoy marketing. I enjoy marketing in all different types and forms. And this position and this time at Ingram has allowed me to help books, authors and books publishers reach consumers. And because I am a book consumer, because I live in that space with large consumer people, I tell people I'm in a couple of book clubs in the world, and I love to hear people reading and hear what they think about reading, to find out how did they figure out they like that book, or who told them. All of that ties back to what I do on a daily basis. So it makes for a good time for me.
Wow, that's great. And this is perfect, because I've not really addressed this, and it's becoming all the more and more relevant of an issue for an author. How do you reach? Because that's a lot of millions of books that go out there, and that's just 1 year. And then you also got the backlist. So for a consumer to figure out what they want to be able to read, and it's fine once you've got yourself established as a name, then the game becomes to how to build your audience. But what does one do on this thing? So I think this is really important. I'm very excited that we met each other last year, and that Kim said, "You've got to interview Davina." I said, "Okay, good." And so then I went through and did all my homework on this thing. I went, "Oh my gosh, what's taking me so long?" So this is great. So now, what is Ingram? I've been working with Ingram I've been in publishing since '86. And I guess you were just a twinkle in the sky back then when I was in.
I was small. I was small.
Yeah, you were.
I'd have been a small human then. That's
exactly.
fine.
At least you weren't. Maybe you weren't a twinkle yet, still, but you're a twinkle in Mama's and Papa's eyes. But I used to co-sponsor before. Well, now it's nothing, but before it was the Book Expo America, it was the American Booksellers Association. They had an annual convention. And there was an annual party that we co-sponsored as Bridge Publications with Ingram. And it was like, that was the party for the ABA. And different, I remember carrying a big wad of the drink tickets to pass out to people as one of the big hotshot sponsors. But
that was really popular.
Exactly. But it was huge. And there, one of the popular bands, there was the Rock Bottom Remainders, which was Stephen King was a guitarist, and he'd sing, and we had all kinds of people that played there. It was just a lot of fun. It was just a big party for the ABA each year. And so we worked a lot with them. We did a lot of sponsoring, also programs. We did a lot of the inbound and outbound marketing that Ingram had. I don't know if you still do that or not, but we did all those different things. And every now and then we'd fly somebody in to caper the salespeople there, because happy salespeople equals happy sales. So Judy Norton, the girl from the Waltons, she would parachute. She'd fly in and she'd parachute down, and then bring a bunch of donuts and coffee to the sellers and stuff. It was crazy. We were the West Coast publisher with the big bestsellers. That's when we were, the big title then was, on the nonfiction was Dianetics, and on the fiction side we had Battlefield Earth and Mission Earth. So we had lots of working together there with Ingram, and we got Mission Earth coming up pretty soon too. So we're looking forward to that relationship picking up again. But anyway, so explain a little bit about what Ingram is and what makes it so special as a distributor.
Ingram is special because, as you said, we are. I admit we're a powerhouse. Like there are lots of pieces to Ingram.
Yeah.
But as a distributor, you want to be able to get your book in a lot of places. And so Ingram allows you to do that as a one-stop shop. So we can help you make sure that when you have your EAN and you walk into a bookstore, you walk into a smaller bookstore, that you've got access to being able to buy. People are able to access and buy that book. And we have the ability now for publishers and booksellers to order a book. So like, there's not a thing like, well, I don't have it anymore. We have the ability and the grace to be able to say, hey, you want this book? Yeah, we can get it shipped to you by this time, or we can get it to you.
Yes, what I talked about with Dion, the Spark. That's the Ingram Spark.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so that's one of the things that for authors is really important, because this isn't a time where you have to hope someone helps you. You have the ability to market your book. I do want to say that it's important. I might be getting ahead of myself, but it's important for authors to know that they pay. Just like you played a significant role in deciding that you had a story to tell, you had some communication, you had some information you wanted to communicate, you also have to take that lead in deciding what that marketing looks like. I think that we see so many different stories about, oh, I was on TikTok and I sold 1 million books, or what, these different stories. All of those things are just like any other time. You've got to play a part in your story and getting your story out there. And so I'm here to talk and share with you the marketing pieces that Ingram has. We're going to do that, but I want to be able to communicate that you are an author, but that being an independent author and writing your book, that also means that makes you a business person. That also makes you a marketing person. You have to own up to those things. If you don't want to own up to those things, you do have to acknowledge that you're going to have to pay some expert to do that for you. But the reality is, as I said, most of us are not having that huge budget to be able to hand that over. So if you are having to own your own responsibility, that means you are going to need to sell your book. You're going to have a strategy for that. That means that you are going to have to be on social media, whether you want to or not. A lot of those books, a lot of the brand management about your story. I talked to an author recently, and I hear lots of author stories about what their book is about. And her story was so unique. It's something I'd never heard before. The storyline that she'd written for this book. And the reality is, however great that is, she's going to have to build a plan, because her storyline involved some uncomfortable truths about life. And so she's like, every time I write and I try to put in the content of what my book is about, Google shuts it down, because part of her book is about suicide and things of that nature. And so the reality is, she's needed some help figuring out what words to use to get her book out. But she's got to do some untraditional ways to get the story out. And you may have to figure out where your audience is, who is interested in this storyline, who likes to read this, who, when you are going online, who wrote a book similar to this, and what does that audience look like? Do I have to be in some non-traditional social medias that people don't talk about often to build some of that audience and conversation? So we've got to be mindful that it's not like, sometimes people are saying, so if I give you this money, is this magic thing going to happen tomorrow? Marketing doesn't necessarily work that way.
Right. Okay, good. Now this is, I'm so just, I guess I got to keep to my script here, because all of a sudden I just went, all these different.
I can do this all day. So also remember, I can talk and jibber jabber with you all day.
Okay, good. All right. So I guess the thing about Ingram is that's big enough that you can actually take the time, because for the longest time Ingram was the distributor, and the classic distributors, publishers would go to you and they try to convince you that these books are going to sell. So you'd stock those books, and then booksellers would see that booksellers like working with a single distributor, because it's one invoice. They can order all the books they want to and just pay one invoice. And then Ingram takes care of all the billing and collections and all that.
They can run our system. They can look at lists. They can decide what books they should buy based on our recommendations. All of that is in there. True.
Exactly. So now we've taken to a new direction here with a consumer, an author, who I call him a consumer, but now he's being turned into a new segment of Ingram's, I guess, service line, where you service to the booksellers, but now you also service to authors to be able to reach consumers. So if an author who has a book and then he wants to be able to set up a marketing program, then he contacts your program, the Ingram ID, and then that's where they're able to set up. So we're going to get into that, but that's kind of like why someone who's an author are going to be very interested in this, because this gives you an ability to target, and we're going to get to this part here. I'm fascinated with how you're able to actually really, really zoom in and drill down to the exact audience that person's trying to reach, because on that pictograph that I saw there in that one link that I went through, it was amazing that the verified reader audiences, and that's going to be towards the end of what we're going to do here, because that's like the cherry on the top of the whipped cream, on top of the chocolate sauce, on top of the 3 flavors of ice cream and everything below that. And then there's this special brownie underneath that you're going to find when you dig in. So what is why has Ingram moved into the consumer marketing arena?
Well, it's difficult to say that we have moved into it. The reality is, with Ingram, we have a strong voice in the market, in the book market. And so we started some brands to bring consumers along on the journey. And we have 6 major brands, their websites and newsletters. So Little Infinite, Book Genie is a newer one. Page and Pairing is a newsletter that we do. We have a website called Shelf Savvy. So what I want to kind of tell you guys about that specifically is that when we are looking, we have over 3.5 million subscribers based on these websites and these newsletters. We've got over 400 million impressions are based in our social media. So people are coming. We've got over 120,000 followers in our social media. Our website audience has 21 million page views. We've delivered about over 70 million deliveries of emails. So we have an audience, and the audiences are really based on the content that we're putting out. We have the beauty of actually taking our, we were able to take the content that we're putting, and we're making sure that our consumers get to know what books they're interested in. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. I want to start with Bookfinity. Bookfinity is one of our websites. You can go to bookfinity.com. You answer a series of questions, and it will give you what we call a reader type. It's like a book personality. You're going to answer questions. It's going to say, oh, based on your answers, you like these types of books. And then you come back to that website. That website will continually send you information about the books that you are interested in. So you'll get like 1 or 2 series of book personalities or reader types, and it'll keep giving you things that you should read or content that you're interested in. That is us serving up to, because we do have a lot of information about books and information. It's us just taking it out and sending it to the readers. And so those readers spend time at our various websites. So that's just one. Bookfinity is just one website. We've got another one. Bookfinity is one website, but we also have Little Infinite. Little Infinite started off as a newsletter specifically about poetry. It's become an entire lifestyle brand with people that are putting in content, their poems, reading about poems, poetry, books. They're engaged. It's really an active and engaged community. So over time, we have these different communities and people that are engaging with books. And so we're able to say, okay, we feel good about providing them this content. This is what we're doing for them. And in turn, we're able to figure out, okay, they like this, they don't like this. This is what they're looking for. This is more information that they've asked us for. And because they've given us permission to do that and understand how they're spending their time on our websites, that gives us first party data about what they're doing, and then figuring out how to mirror that in other places to make sure that we're expanding those audiences, sharing that with our publishers and our authors. We want to be able to bring the communities together. It doesn't do you any good to spend $7,500 to talk to people who are interested in dogs if you have a book about grief. So being able to be mindful to find an audience that's interested, that is looking to talk about grief when you have this book, versus say, I think sometimes when people lose their dogs, they're grieving. Okay, broad stroke, right? So once again,
Yeah.
you're spending money over here when we probably needed to narrow it down if you've got a book about grief. And so these are things that we try to get people that are in advertising or trying advertising to understand. We've got a different way of looking at this, audience-based. And sometimes people want us to be a little more granular, but then we have available. So they said, okay, my book is about poodles who jog with their owners. Okay, we don't have an audience that detailed, right? But the reality is being able to own the audiences, understand what they're looking for, and bring those two things together. So when people are advertising with us, you can decide, our authors can decide. One of the authors asked, she's like, well, you've got them buying your books. I said, no. The beauty of this, authors can decide when they buy advertising from us, they get to decide where the people are buying the books from. That link can be your favorite indie bookstore. That link can be your personal sites that you're selling your books on. That link could be a target.com link you want to use. That's completely up to you. We don't limit that for you. You decide where those books are being sold from.
Do you ever use the A word?
We don't use the A word often. You can use the A word. We don't have a problem with you using the A word.
Okay.
I probably won't use the A word here in this conversation. But yes, you can also use that if that's what you would like. If that is your claim to fame, that too could be helpful.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, A refers to Amazon.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
So one thing that I don't know how much people really understand when you talked about people just want to like splatter. It's something for everybody. Just how silly that is when you take a look at like the numbers, because people don't really think in terms of magnitudes. And so the number of, like we're saying right now, there's 4 million books published in 2022. So that's just published, let alone the number of readers. So say if you have 100 million readers and you say, well, if I'm only going to go for 1%, that's hardly worth it. But if you do the math on that, if you sold 1% of 100 million, so that's 1 million books. Or that's 1 million people that you're marketing to, and that's a lot of book sales. Considering like that first datum that I read at the beginning, that the average person will only sell 250 copies of their book. So you're talking about only 1% of the market. And I know it's more than 100 million, but if you just have that, that's a lot of books. So you got to look at and just confront the fact that there's nothing wrong with being a big fish in a small fish bowl. That's totally fine. You're going to be very wealthy, very well off being like that. And so that's why I liked when I saw that drill down of yours on the website, that it was just like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, because people throw away so much money trying to build an audience to then market to, and you can have a big runway, but you've already taken care of that, and you can now provide them, here's the first drill down, or maybe 2 or 3 drill downs. If you don't have the poodles like the jog, you have dogs, maybe you have poodles, but it doesn't go beyond that. So then you can build it from there. But anyway, so
I think also I want to jump in and say that it's the difference between you deciding that you have a book and you want everyone to know about your book, than taking your book and standing outside a bookstore.
Yeah.
Right. And so you could talk about this book all day and people could be really, really like that, but you really need engagement. So when we start talking about emails and people say, oh, well, I want to send it to as many people as possible. You don't. You want to send it to as many readers, people who buy books, not people. I like to use the idea that people are, when you're going to the internet and you're actively looking for something, are they looking for the thing or the book about that thing? We've got to be mindful that you're looking for a particular person that's going to buy a book. It's a very different person that says, I'm going to go and wait for that book to be available in the library.
Yeah. I remember when we were, again, going back with Dianetics and with Battlefield Earth, Mission Earth, and the other titles because we published all the L. Ron Hubbard books, we'd market. And we had, we did a lot to market back then. And there's a definite percentage of people that just automatically go to the library. They just say, I'm going to go to the library. I got several people here at the office because this week I didn't have to, but normally because I do a podcast a week. And so I'm reading a book a week. And so that's a fair amount of reading I have to do to prepare and want to go to book conference, like where I met with Dion. I had 5 books to read before that weekend. It's like as an author, you're going to have people that will be very engaged with what you got, but they're going to want to go to the library too. So that's something that we've got. Ingram, you also service libraries. It's not just you do it for all of these. Any place that you can get a book, you can go to Ingram and know that Ingram is going to be a service line for that. So, all right. So with that said, so I just want to make sure that people understood that there's everything right about trying to target down. And even if you drill down, but it's only 1%, that's a huge market. If you can capture that, you're going to be very, very successful, and you can quit your day job if you're able to really capture that much of a book market. So you've got this. We're going to break this down, but first of all, just an overview of what Ingram ID is.
Okay, so what I want you to know about Ingram ID, it is an easy to use platform that allows publishers to go in and they can book their own ads.
Okay.
So they can log in and they're going to advertise to verified readers. And so that means they're going to be able to do ads on Facebook and Google, and then also book ads on our reader brands for access. We use demographics, psychographics, and online behaviors that I was talking to you before about our different websites, and then it'll connect you to millions of readers. And so in the Ingram ID world, we have 50, or actually we have 60 now, unique audience segments. And so you can go in and choose audience segments that you believe would be interested in your title. And you get to go in and you do a start, you tell it when you want to start, you tell it when to stop. We do have some minimums there just to make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck.
Right.
But you can go and you do a start and you do a stop. It will tell you then how many impressions and how many clicks you can expect in that time frame. And then you decide, I would like this to run 30 days. I'd like this to run 45 days. And then you go in, you log in, and you pay for it. The ad will be set up. You actually set up the ad. It'll walk you through the setup for it. And then it tells you when it's going to start. You get a report. You get a live reporting. As once it launches, you can watch it in real time, or you can wait. Many people wait, and then you can go and log your report after it's over. But it's a real live platform designed for publishers and authors to have control over what they put out in the world. And they don't need me to be at work at 6:00 on a Thursday to get it done. That you can set that up for yourself. That's about a 3-day lead time, but it is designed with over 60 audiences for you to go in and specifically choose. You can do email ads. You can do actual emails based. Some of the audiences have the ability for you to book and schedule and launch emails, but most of it is connected to our social media platforms.
I get it. Yeah, because I saw on the link that I went through it as I was studying this thing here from J.T. Ellison, New York Times bestselling author. I'm finding these ads quite helpful. The days they cut off, sales drop by half. They are working well for me. Mm-hmm. So that's what. And I just happened to notice too, you're a very well-known publishing house. This is an invaluable service for niche publishers who need to reach the right reader to make advertising work. Thank you to the Ingram ID team for creating a workable advertising vehicle for us. Galaxy Press. Yay!
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my publishing house there. So you mentioned publishers and authors. So I just want to address, because we're going to have a lot more authors reading this or listening to this than publishers. So unless you're an indie publisher, because a lot of authors I've seen have gone to creating their own publishing house to be able to handle distribution. So this also is a viable way for them to be able to make that breakout as they're starting out. Because I've seen a lot of these people, they're definitely overworked and underpaid, and until they're up and running. So to those people too, who are authors that created their own publishing house to be able to get their books out there. So it's a pretty simple thing here to be able to get in and use this Ingram ID. But I guess, and so it's an easy way to promote your book. And so you said exclusive audiences. So let's discuss that a bit more about, because you say it says in here, our database of book lovers connects you to millions of readers in over 50 plus genres.
Yes. So the Ingram ID database is based on what we call verified readers. So these are people that have done the following things in the last 190 days. That means they have read a book within the specific genre that you are looking for. That means they've made lists, like online listicles, about what they're going to read next. That means they are browsing preview content that's come out to them. They may have entered a giveaway. They may have bought a book. They may have opened an email about a new release related to that same genre. They would have had to do multiple of these things on this list for us to be defining them as a verified reader. And so that's where we define in the platform how those people come to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so people ask me, well, why don't I just go to Google myself? You can definitely do that. And we're not telling you that that's not an option. What we're saying is, if you have an audience, if you have one of these genres and you want one of the audiences that we are offering, what we're telling you is that these people, as related to this, have been vetted as not just people who are interested in books, which is the way they are broad stroked on social media. We have now verified and nailed them down as actual verified readers.
Got
people
it.
that buy books and buy content.
Got it. So now I'm an author. I've been working for a while building up my own social media. So now I've got people that are following me. I've been building my lists, and I'm doing my due diligence, trying to make it go. So I'm up to, like, I don't know, 15, 20,000. No, that's not social media. I'm up to like 3,000, 4,000 names that follow me on my mailing list. Mm-hmm. So how would working with your program tie in with what I'm doing to be able to enhance it and act as a supercharger or something like that? Does that work like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have an audience, you build an audience, they know who you are, you're talking to them on a regular basis. Your goal here is to expand that audience mm-hmm. to people who like the same things as those people are, so that you are you're expanding your audience. What we're doing is saying that we've got all these people over here, we have these millions of people, and then this particular group of people inside of our